Hello, hello. Oh, are we here? What's happening? We're not here. Hello? Oh, hello,
Good
hello.
afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Good afternoon, Justin.
Good morning, Professor.
Good morning. Wait, actually, good morning, Marissa. Was that? Good morning, Marissa. Hello, um, Andre or Yellow. Hello, Wen Yi. Hello, Kimberly. Mixed, thanks. And how was your break? Thank you. I don't even know how to answer that, but good, thank you. Good afternoon, Alyssa. Good afternoon, Armand. Sorry. Good afternoon, Jenna. Yes, interesting. I hope you had a good break too. And I guess I did. Thank you. Good afternoon, Sharon. Good afternoon, Sarah. Hello, Aaron. Good afternoon, Abby. Good afternoon, Rachel. Good afternoon, Madeline. Fair enough, Kimberly. Yes, agreed. Oh wait, and there's more people. Sorry, hold on. Okay, sorry. Okay. Tonight is that everybody? Okay, sorry, I'm still catching. Obviously, I'm still on break mentally in a way, although not at all. Hold on, who else do I see? And good afternoon, Andre, if I didn't say, and Eileen, good afternoon, if I didn't say, I'm not sure. And Yaubo and Aaron, good afternoon. I think that's, Aliyah, good afternoon. Alinelli, good afternoon. I think is that everybody. Hello. Okay. Hello and hello. Yes, sorry, just we are. Okay, 1 second, sorry, almost there. Okay, hello. Okay, welcome back. I'm I'm confused on Windows here. Sorry. Oh, chat. Hello. Oh, yes. Good afternoon, Alinelli. Thank you. Cool. Okay. So we are back. There's mixing, and I kind of would like to hear about everybody's breaks and stuff, and kind of not, of course. All right. So a lot of business to get to. One thing is, it seems like I hope you. I mean, who even knows what break means at this point in COVID, right? Like, I can assure you, to me, break did not mean that I went to Florida or something like that. Not that that ever has meant that, but I mean, to me, break meant a lot more Nintendo, basically in the same place in the same time. But I hope you guys had somewhat of a break. One thing is, I think what I could tell is, now we're going to talk about the exams in a second. I have not forgotten. I mean, the exams that you took, but just before we get to that, um, uh, a bunch of old homeworks came into me like last night or this morning, or from this class in the other section, which is great because it showed me two things. It showed me, on the one hand, you did sort of take a break, I hope. But it also showed me that as we were coming back today, that many of you do recognize that it's still definitely not too late and still a good idea to catch up and to turn into old things to me, and I will take them, absolutely correct. But if they did come into me like last night or this morning, then I haven't gotten them to them yet, so bear with. But that's cool. Uh, your exams. Now, there's mixy news there. The worst news about your exams is I'm actually not finished with them, and that may scare some of you, because some of you might, from historical knowledge of me, if I say I'm not finished with them yet, what might be going through your mind is, oh great, that's code for he's never going to finish them. Not true. I literally am not finished with them yet, but I've done a ton of them. And Professor Liu also helped with a ton of them. We both, whatever final number has gone on each one was a final number that came from me. And I was the last one to look at each one, but both she and I went through a lot of them. So you are definitely getting them back. Oh, good afternoon. Good afternoon. So, yeah. Oh, sorry. You are, 1 second. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just catching up to the chat and stuff like this. Hold on 1 second. Okay, the bad news is you are not getting the exams back this period. And I am upset about that and embarrassed because I really actually thought this was going to be the year that I'd have them for you right when you're not going to get them back this period. And that is the bad news. And I do apologize. And I am a little bit frustrated with myself or embarrassed. That's the worst of the news. However, a lot of them actually are done. Some of them are not. And the other mixing, and so you definitely are getting them back. And I think Wednesday, you will see a lot of detailed feedback on them when you get them back. That's also the mixing news. I mean, we scrutinize these exams a little bit more like intensely than even maybe we expected to. And it sort of helps to have two people and maybe even more than you expected. So the bad news is that's delaying things a little bit. And also, well, like life is, but so I am embarrassed and upset that you don't have them. I'm not going to have them for you this period. You are going to definitely get them, and you're going to get them before you get any other major graded material. But I also have some things to say about them. And that's why actually what we're going to do this period, most of this period, we're going to go, well, yeah, okay. Very fair question. Marissa's question, how are the grades looking so? Oh, that is very interesting. Oh my God. What Andre just put in the chat is very interesting. You know, wait a second. I did not know that. I mean, that's not a problem, but that's because, okay, well, now we're really going to talk for a second. That is interesting because I did not. So, well, then at least you know I'm not lying, I guess. We really are scrutinizing these things, and on a lot of them have numbers on them even, although I have to admit what Andre just wrote is it's news to me. I thought that I didn't know that you could see anything until we actually hit I mean, good thing I didn't do anything embarrassing, I mean, I guess, but that is so interesting. Okay, no, this is good for me to know. Like, so we're going to pause on this for a minute. So on the one hand, at least there's two people in the room that can at least confirm that there's a lot of marks on those exams and there's even numbers. But now let me quickly, okay. And so also, if you don't see anything yet, that doesn't mean anything bad either. Like, I'm telling you the truth, I didn't finish them all. The ones that I've done, there's a lot of work on them, and some of them are not done, and the ones that are not done are not done. So if you don't see anything on your exam, it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. And also, it's nothing personal. I mean, it's basically alphabetical or whatever. But yes, some of you at least are confirming that. Right. Okay. No, this is very interesting. So we definitely deliberately, we did not send grades to anybody because we want to finish them all first. Okay. It's true that some of you, I did not know this. This is so interesting. So on a lot of the exams, like I marked them, did all this stuff, went back and forth with Professor Liu. Like we actually had lots of conversations about these, and we got really picky about exactly how many points take up here and there. So on the one hand, if you're like looking for fairness or objectivity or like oversight, you got it more than ever. Like it's not just one man just randomly punishing people or whatever. Okay. And so some of you will see that on your doc. I didn't realize that you could, but I'm glad to hear it. So some of you will see, if you look, that your document has been very marked, and you might even see a percentage grade on the front sheet that's boxed in a red box. But I want to quit, and you might not like that grade, or you might see nothing. Like everybody's at different stages. That's the point. Like, so don't worry if you see nothing. I mean, again, I'm embarrassed that I'm not done with them, but this feedback in the chat is indicating like, at least you can all see, I am working on them, but they're not done. But if you, yeah. So it is interesting. But here's what I want to quickly say then. If you didn't get anything back yet, don't worry. It's not personal and it doesn't mean anything. If you already got if you can already see your document, even if you see a grade on it, and maybe, and you know, that grade might even be, in some cases it's good, in some cases it might be alarming. But if you see a grade in my red pen or whatever, you know, on the document itself, Also notice it's not a coincidence, even if I finished that document and moved on to the next person, it's not a coincidence that I didn't return that document or that your grade is not in an official like grade in the Google Classroom. You'll just see it in the document. That is because we're not committing to those grades. No one's grade is going to go down. I promise. If you saw a grade there, it's certainly not going to get any lower than that. But the grades are kind of low, like to answer Marissa's original question. So we very deliberately wanted to go through everything before and possibly adjust grades or something like that. Like we were making adjustments as we went. So I'm not committing to those final grades yet. Your grade might be higher than whatever you see. In fact, it will be higher based on something we're going to do today. If you happen to be one of those people whose exam has been gone through already, then even if you see a grade written on the first page, the reason that grade is not official yet is it might go up. It is not going to go down. So you can, if you happen to be one of those people that sees a number, you can at least rest assured your grade's not going to be any worse than that. I would not do that, but it might go up. And in fact, it almost definitely will go up somewhat. But so, yeah, I mean, it's kind of good for me to write. I thought we were private, Professor Lou and I were privately working in the background, working on your stuff to come up with final conclusions. Okay, apparently you're privy to the process. Fine, like we obviously weren't. I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of in the and good. I'm also sort of glad because I really do feel so upset that I haven't gotten it back. So at least there seems to be some evidence here that you can tell that they're not just forgotten or something. But right, no grades are final yet. No grades are final. No documents have been returned officially. But yes, you can peek apparently if you want. But now but here's one of the reasons I started slowing down towards the end. And one of the reasons we're going to do something kind of different today is that some of you might think that those grades are lower than you might expect, especially given that I know, it was an open everything exam and all of that. The grades were just, I'm not worried about the grades. I'm still going to stand by the fact that if you're gunning for an A in this class, even no matter what you did on that exam, I'm still believing, in fact, I'm believing more than ever that anybody who wants an A in this class is still in the position to get an A in this class, even if their number on that exam was low. And let me be more specific now, because not everybody knows what I'm talking about. Right now, the numbers are tending to hover more in the 80s and maybe high 70s than you might have expected, or maybe even than I expected. But I don't mean that as a criticism. I'm actually happy about that, and I'll tell you why. First and foremost, I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just trying to be honest here and clear. There's a lot of grades right now that are like in the high 70s, low 70s. If you got in the high 70s or low 80s as your raw score there, it does not mean that you just lost your chance at an A in the class. Does not mean that at all. So please, nobody panic. I mean, if you got like a 40, then we need to talk, and then there's something we got to do. But first of all, no one has gotten a 40 yet. But okay, if you got in the high 70s or the low 80s, first of all, you're pretty much like a lot of other people, so there's no reason to panic. But second of all, it's almost good news. The truth is, when you get these things back, and hopefully you're going to all get them back Wednesday, if you got a number that's slightly surprising, you're going to see a lot of red ink there. You're maybe even going to think for a minute, oh my God, is Yaverbaum being picky or something? I don't know what maybe you'll even think I'm being unfair. But here's the good news. The really good news is that for me, this exam in particularly, first of all, shows me that you guys do know what's going on, even if the numbers are not. I think you guys do know what's going on, and I think you're being honest about what you know, what you don't know. The thing that was the happiest result to me, the fact that we could really scrutinize, that there was a lot to think about and write about in these exams. What you guys did me and this whole system a major favor. You did yourself a major favor, whether you know it or not. Every one of you who did get like in the 80s or something did yourself and me a major favor, because what you actually proved, and I mean this, I really mean this, what has been now to me demonstrated beyond a shadow of a doubt is that this system of giving you open notes, open Chegg, open universe, open help each other, all that, the system, I'm now convinced, is a perfectly fine system, because I'm now convinced I mean, I always was, but I really am now, that even with all of those systems in place, that you don't have to sit under test conditions and under a webcam, take this thing and be scrutinized for cheating and all that. I'm now convinced that even with Chegg existing in the world and all that, that it's still perfectly plausible for each one of you to actually really demonstrate honestly how much physics you really understand and how much you don't. In other words, I think every exam I've looked at so far, even if the person got like a 79 or something, I'm not like worried about the cheating aspect here, because it's clear to me that when it was possible, that it's clear to me looking at your exams that both you and I can honestly tell the difference between when you honestly fully comprehend or demonstrate the thing that I want you to honestly comprehend and demonstrate, and when you can't. Like, in other words, I'm even less worried about cheating than ever, because anybody who blatantly cheated on this thing knows it in their heart and is going to, and knows, and they're going to see if you blatantly cheated, it's going to be clear that you're going to get a bad grade, not because I'm looking to find out who cheated, but because the only way to really get a good grade on this exam was to really, really like show every step. In other words, I think your exams were honest. What I'm trying to say is, I think that it was even possible for someone to actually like write everything down and do. I'm not saying this well anymore. I think your demonstrations were honest, and I think the exam does honestly test who really fully understands to the level that I want and who doesn't, or who can fully demonstrate their understanding to the level I want. And I think there were some legitimate confusions in some people's minds about what that really means to demonstrate. And that's why today we are going to give an extra chance for extra points, and maybe even not just today. Like, I'm going to be giving points back to people because I think in some cases, many of you honestly tried, honestly did your best stuff, but honestly didn't really understand how much I was really asking for in one way or another. And so you're honestly going to get some points back. But what I'm honestly saying is, I think the issue of like cheating is as small as I hoped it would be. I don't mean that no one's cheating. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that people that try to cheat, I don't have to look to find out if they cheat or not, because if they cheat, their lack of understanding just comes through. And it's just that way. Like, the more you honestly try to get your head around this material, the more that honestly comes through. And so the real thing I'm trying to say is, I guarantee you our final exam will be the exact same method. Like, I'm not stepping back an inch. It's going to be open, everything. You're going to help each other. It's going to be 5 days, all that stuff, but you're just going to be more duly warned and more prepared by the time you take your final exam, especially when you get these things back, which you'll see even more what it is I'm really looking for and why you can't cheat your way out of it. Okay. And I'll be specific now. Yeah. Okay. So, like, for example, Yabo's question in the chat is the key thing I'm talking about here. And the key way that a lot of people lost a lot of points in different places, even if they like knew their physics or stuff like that, is and I'll try to be really specific. I want to be as specific about this as I can, especially when I give the documents back to you. You want, and Professor Liu and I spent a week talking about this. Like, this gets very nuanced, but here's the goal. Each of you, I'm talking to everybody, and again, for everybody, whether you can see anything or not, whether you end up getting a high number or not, this is the way to get the highest number possible, is what I'm about to say, and particularly on the final exam. What you want, each of you, is to present me with a document that is fully self-contained, a document where I can go through and when you write like question 1, no, I actively do not want you to retype the original question. I'm not looking for that. I don't want you to cut and paste the original question. I'm not looking for that. What I want you to do is, in your work, make as clear as possible what the question, or better yet, the problem, or better yet, the issue or the goal or the research question, if you like, is. In other words, I asked you guys a bunch of questions. I presented you a bunch of problems, and you're presenting me a bunch of solutions, right? But this is physics. If you notice, most of these solutions, most of the problems and the solutions, or at least a lot of them, don't even have specific numbers. They just have like constants and variables and stuff, right? In other words, if you back up and think about these kind of problems, when we present a problem to you, and then you guys start writing out a solution, if you think about it, your solution is really always is a mini proof, right? Like if we say, given a pendulum of length L and mass M, or even if we say length 3 and mass 2, either way, if we then ask, what's the period of that pendulum? What your solution is supposed to be doing is really saying, here is how to find the period of a pendulum when the mass and the length are known, right? Like I'm not saying that's how you write it, but I'm saying properly managed, a solution to a physics problem really does stand alone as its own little proof or derivation of how that type of problem is solved in general. Like right? So what you guys want, each of you, in your solution to each of our problems, you want it to stand alone. You don't type out the question. You don't want it to be an exercise. Like you want to view our exercise as an example of a larger issue. So pretend it's just like a little article that you're submitting to a journal, or pretend it's a little lesson that you're putting on the web for other physics students or something like that. But in other words, your document, and this is, again, to each of you, this is a subtle thing, but it's super, I think it's, especially with a test like this is the key criterion. Think of once you finish writing out your solutions, imagine that you're handing all your solutions to somebody who does know physics, sure, like maybe Professor Liu or some other professor. You're handing all these solutions to someone who knows physics, but who doesn't necessarily know what the original questions were, didn't necessarily write the exam, or better yet, doesn't have the exam in front of them, and that could be me now, right? You want to give me one document where I open up the document and I see like number 1, and then I see you sort of lay out like, given pendulum of mass this, of length this, diagram, question, what is the period, or goal, find the period, or research task, determine the period. Like you want to just present each one like its own little postcard of self-contained physics. And the way, and even if that all sounds very subtle and nuanced, and right, and there's definitely places in the exam, particularly right at the beginning, where we frequently were taking off 2 points, and we would say something like, what is the question? And I know this happened. Again, Professor Liu and I talk about this a lot. I'm totally sympathetic. So I understand, I'm trying to explain this thoroughly so that we can all get this right and get points back and get this done in time for the final exam. So this is not a punishment. And this is also why maybe it's good that you don't have your grades back yet. But we realize grading these exams, something that maybe is not as clear to you as it is to us. So it's all about second chances. But think of it this way. If all I'm saying just sounds like gobbledygook, here's the standard. You turn in your exam, and this is everybody. You turn in your exam to me. I've got your exam now. I'm looking. Now you and I both know I'm the one that wrote the exam, of course. Like I know these questions, right? But I've also written a million exams, and I don't remember at any, even though I do have a good memory, I don't remember at any time every single detail of each question or which questions, which or whatever. Your goal is to give me a document that I can grade, that I can go through and look for correct or incorrect physics without me having to look at anything else, right? But not as an exercise, but don't give it to me, here's the question, don't just type out the question and then write out your answers, because that doesn't show me that you understand what the question is. I want a self-contained document where it's just like, I can just look at your work and know right away what the issue is that you're trying to solve for, and then what your process is and what your final answer is. Like literally, I should not have to look at anything else in order to evaluate the coherence, the correctness, the thoroughness, the understanding of what you're giving me. So you include the question in your answer as though it were an essay, as though it was like a history essay where I said, what are the causes of the American Revolution? So would you hand me as a document that says something at the top like, the causes of the American Revolution, what people have wondered about the causes of the American Revolution for centuries. In the following 3 pages, we will demonstrate the causes of the American Revolution by these 3 reasons, right? Like you just make it clear, or like a newspaper article always has to answer who, what, where, when, but it doesn't start by saying who, what, where. It just like gives you a headline that's like, here's what happened. That's what I want. It's almost practice for publishing journal articles and stuff like that. And yes, you can write like 1, question 2, question 3, because yeah, it is, to keep it organized. But don't assume that writing question 1 makes me know what the question is. And now I'm going to be even really more detailed because I know a lot of people lost. Here's where a lot of people lost 2 points, and I'm sure they think it's unfair. And even Professor Liu and I argued about it. So I don't even want to get into an issue of fairness because I'm going to give you the points back if we can all get together on this. But the perfect example, and it's maybe even what some people are asking about in the private chat right now, and again, if you don't see this in your exam yet, just, listen. In the very first question of the whole exam, like one of the differential equation question. So the very first question, we presented you with a differential equation, d2x, blah, blah. And then we presented you with a possible cosine solution. And we ask in part one or whatever, we said, like, does this cosine expression satisfy or solve the differential equation d2 blah, 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 right? Like that was a question. Now, many of you absolutely wrote like question one. Fine, that's helpful, thank you. Many of you even wrote the differential equation. And if you didn't, that's definitely, we took points off, but many of you even wrote the differential equation. You wrote like d2x equals negative blah x, right? And then you wrote right after that, x equals x naught cosine blah, blah. So many of you absolutely, and so I'm sure in your heart, you thought you were doing the right thing. I don't think you thought you were cheating or anything like that. You weren't cheating, but many of you literally wrote the differential equation and then you wrote the cosine thing. And then you started taking derivatives of the cosine thing to show whether it fit that. And I hope you know what I'm talking about. And that sounds really good. Like, and under many circumstances, that might be fine. Like, I do believe you get the math and all that. But here's the thing that's so weird about differential equations and so tricky is, remember, you wrote a differential equation and then you wrote the cosine thing and then you start going, well, what that really, if I don't know what the question is, what it looks like is given differential equation and given other thing, now I'm going to start trying to prove something. Like there's no way for me to know if I just see a differential equation and I see a different type of equation, and especially if they're labeled like 1 and 2 or A and B or something, what I think general customary science problems and math problems, like I would think, okay, those are two givens of equal status. And now we're going to use those givens to try to do something. And in fact, many of the other questions in the exam are exactly like that. What in fact is happening in that first question that is so subtle and challenging to many of us and may still be confusing to many of us is that's not what's happening. What's happening is what's given is the differential equation. And then that cosine thing is like, it's the question. It's not a given that it's true. It's given that it's a possibility. And the question is, does that second possibility fit that first given? I need to know. That's the question is, so you could even do something like this. You could do this, like A, the differential equation, B, the cosine thing, and then you could write, question, does expression B satisfy or solve expression A? You could totally write that and then start taking your derivatives. And that's good enough for me. I mean, it's one sentence. And granted, that might be the only sentence that you might be missing. And that's why I took off 2 points. And I can totally even see why you might think, oh, well, if I had known that, I would have done that. Okay. So if it's a matter of that, that's why I'm telling you now. So we'll get, so we're going to do something to get the points back. But I do want everybody to know, especially at this point now in Physics 204, and especially if we are, going to get all these things back and I want you to know the standard is that you gotta, especially when it comes to differential equations, which are so confusing in exactly that regard. Like honestly, in my heart of hearts, I don't think any of you tried to cheat, and I don't think any of you were willfully going against my instructions. But I think some people in the room still are kind of confused about differential equations and what we're doing them. So it's important. So it's to your benefit to make it super clear to me. The issue is, does this second expression fit into the first expression, as opposed to, I'm going to use both these expressions together with equal status to now do something. That's like right? And frankly, it's because I think a lot of people do for a long time think we're trying to do the second thing, that they get all confused with differential equations. So that's a subtlety, but so the kind of thing, and I know I'm over talking about this, but frankly, this standard is possibly the place that all of you want to work on more than any other. I really do believe a lot of you get the physics, but your goal here is to show that you get the physics. Remember, the goal is not to show me the correct answers, because I already know the correct answers and I know I gave them to you in effect. It's not a competition of who has access to the correct answers. It's a competition, if it is a competition, of who can show best, or who can really show that they really understand why the answers are the correct answers to these questions. And that's where sentences like goal, does this fit into this, or problem, determine, make all the difference. And again, we didn't take off like 100 points, but we did take 2 points off here and there for things like that. And again, I'm saying, I'm sure that annoyed people. And it's part of why I'm not giving the grades back yet, because I'm not trying to annoy people. But what I really want ultimately, like, I want you to, and the last way I want you to present me with a document that is self-contained, that I can just like literally look at it and be like, that's good physics, that's good, oh, bad physics, good physics, bad physics, good physics, right? I should not have to know anything else besides physics in order to grade these things. And I will tell you, like personally, honestly, one of the reasons I'm going to stand, there's a lot of reasons I want to stand by this standard, but it's partly because I really want you guys to see, we're not here to teach you information. Science used to feel that way. Science might seem that way, but you are not paying millions of dollars in tuition to get information or knowledge from me. There's enough, that's not what this class is about. Because at this point, we all know if you want information, Google and Chegg and Khan Academy are a heck of a lot more efficient ways to get information than me. What this is about is learning a language called physics, or a skill called physics. It's much more like learning like Spanish or Chinese or piano or something. Then like you're going to walk away from this class with very small, few bits of actual knowledge or information. What we're trying to get you all to be is articulate and fluent in the language of physics. And that's what you're trying to, which includes mathematical equations, diagrams, English commentary, multicolors sometimes. You're trying to demonstrate in your responses, in your documents, you're in effect giving me a physics essay or a physics article. It's practice for writing an article to a journal or something like that. Something that I can read on its own and that makes sense on its own, and that feels like that while I'm reading it, I can tell, oh, this is written by someone who understands the language that they're talking in, right? Like, just like if this were a Spanish class and I asked you to write an essay on what you did for your spring vacation, you could sure go online and learn. You could like, oh, I don't remember how to say beach in Spanish. So you look up a playa. Okay. Like you can get all this information, but if in the end of the day, you just try cutting and pasting different vocabulary words together that you got online. Like if you never took a Spanish class and you try to write me an essay in Spanish about what you did on your spring break, like, unless you literally just plagiarize an essay from the web, unless you literally just submit an essay that someone else wrote, which of course is cheating and of course a ludicrous thing to do. But anything short of that, if you just tried to piece together Spanish words together, but you didn't know how to speak Spanish, you didn't know the grammar or anything, it would be obvious to me reading it that it would be junk, right? It would be obvious that you were just piecing together and that's the same with physics. The thing you got to know is, I know when I'm reading physics, whether the person writing it knows what they're writing or not. And what I became convinced in this exam, even though the grades were a little bit lower than you might want, and again, we're going to try to raise those grades, but they were just low enough to prove to me that it is totally fair and totally good for me to keep on giving you these open. I'm completely convinced now that even with Chegg existing online, I don't care. It doesn't threaten me at all, because anybody who really, because even subtle cheating comes through as bad physics. I can almost promise you, even if you take your whole exam straight from Chegg, and we'll talk about that in a second, which nobody did to my knowledge, but like, if you took your whole exam, if you just literally had Chegg do your exam for you, which people tried to do in the past, if you did that, what you would get back from me is not an accusation of cheating. You wouldn't get back, I believe this came from Chegg, therefore I'm taking you to the John Jay Judicial Court. No, you would just get back a really bad grade because it would just be garbage physics. I just know that at this point. That's how much I trust this system, that if you get what you're doing, then you can break it down in as detail as possible. And it starts with making it clear to me what the goal is that you're trying to do in each problem. Now, I'm sounding very punitive right now. I don't mean to be at all. What I'm actually saying is, I honestly think that you guys were very honest on this exam. I really do. I actually think and you're allowed to use Chegg, and you're allowed to use these resources to help you understand. I think that many of you, by the time you were writing things on this exam, you were pretty much writing only things that you really did understand. And I think a lot of you really did think and I think you did understand a lot, but but I think there's a higher standard we can reach here. And again, if all of you just automatically got a 99, which sometimes I'm afraid of, if all of you got a 99 because you had all the correct answers and it was that straightforward, it would mean this is a bad system, right? Because it means it's a bad system if you're all getting 99s. The fact that there was this much variety in the grades, and that I don't have to go around worrying about whether I'm putting webcams on you guys, like, okay, I don't know if I'm making sense or not, but all right, I'm going to pause for a second. So let me back up. Again, apology that I don't have the grades yet. Apology that some of you have the ability to glimpse at a partial grade in progress and some of you don't. Apology also that there's a huge amount of scrutiny on the exams and maybe some of you are not expecting that. I think it's better in the long run for your education. An apology in advance if it's sounding like I'm saying there was a bad performance. I'm actually not saying that at all. I'm actually saying it was like just imperfect enough to give me faith in all of you and the fact that this all is going to work and we're all going to know a lot of physics by the end. Okay. What are we going to do about the numbers? As soon as I shut up or answer any further questions, what we're going to do today for a while, I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to keep grading them to get them back to you, but you'll know, oh, and I'll look in the chat in 1 second. I'm sorry. Actually, I will look in the chat right now. I'm sorry. But today we're going to start today in class the opportunity to get some points back, maybe more than you even expect. Okay, so I don't want anybody to be worried about grades. I mean, of course you're worried, but none of this means you should now be panicked. But wait, hold on a second. Let me look in the chat. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So I'm looking in the private chat here for a second. There's a couple of good questions in the private chat. And also, by the way, if we spent all today on questions like this, that would be fine by me too. Because again, I really think we're here, we're talking at a high level of detail and sophistication about, like, I'm holding you guys to a high standard. Okay. Because partly because I'm really beginning to trust and know your intellectual capacities and your intellectual integrity more and more. And also, frankly, because I'm trusting my own ability to look at your work in more detail than I was able to in the beginning of quarantine. So all of this is to reach a really high standard, but therefore, so there's some good questions in the chat. Like one question in the chat, I'm not going to literally read it word for word because they're private questions, but there's one question in the chat about someone who feels that they did do pretty exactly what I just said. Like they actually gave a blurb saying what the goal is, and yet they still lost the 2 points. Now, that's very plausible. I've got many answers to that. Many, actually. Okay, so the first thing is, right, I do think there's a lot of cases where people thought that they made the question clear, but not in the way that I'm saying. So they lost 2 points. Like and this is not what the private chat person's saying, but just to say it clearly again. And again, I'm saying this like it's a rare opportunity. You don't usually have 2 professors looking at exam. And of course, some of you probably are annoyed to know that. But on the other hand, it really does increase objectivity and compassion. Like Professor Liu and I had a lot of fascinating discussions about and literally down to the 1.2 point level. So I know there's very nuanced things going on here. So for many of you, you might have put the differential equation, you might have put the expression, you might have even written question 1, and we still took off the 2 points. And part of the reason is what I'm saying, that you need more, you need like a blurb. Okay, but then one person in the private chat is saying, but they even put the blurb. So what's up, yo? And I believe that person. I believe they probably did. 2 things. If they put the blurb at the end, then and they're very fair question. They weren't arguing in the private chat. They're saying like, so what should I do in the future if that wasn't good enough? Fair question. That's what we're here for, right? So one thing I would say is if on any question, you're making clear what's supposed to go on the question, but you make it clear at the end, it might just be a simple matter of please put that at the beginning. Like the very first thing that should happen in any question is the givens, whatever they are, and then the issue. whether you want to call it a problem or a question or a to be determined or even research question, you know, if you want to like really practice, like what it'd be like for a journal, like after you show us what is known or given to the question, the very first thing is to say what the issue is. And that again, often is, you might have to phrase your own way to really make it clear. But you want to have it at the beginning, not the end. That's one thing. But the other thing is, in terms of this private chat question, let's say you even did that. Of course, having said all what I'm saying, it's still very, very possible that I'm making a mistake or that I got so picky and so wrapped up or that I missed something. Certainly possible. So the good news is you notice that none of these grades were final yet anyway. So we've been going through these things over and over again. So certainly if there's an issue, I'm going to go back and check again. So like, for example, the person who's in the private chat, I'll remember who that person was and I'll look more carefully at theirs. Maybe I did make a mistake, or maybe I can make it more clear in their document. The other thing is, even after you get something back, when all is said and done, for real, as long as you're polite about it, the way you guys are, for real, I could still make a mistake in the actual real thing. So when all is said and done, you get the real thing back. If you've really listened closely to all this, which you guys are, you still always have the opportunity to politely challenge my grading. I will not be insulted. And I'd rather that be the idea that I can make a mistake and you're allowed to ask me, are you sure you didn't make a mistake here? Or more politely, what could I do next time? Right. And I'm never going to say it's too late for me to look again. My decisions are final. I know some professors say that, but that's because they're better people than I am, I guess. Like I make too many mistakes to ever believe that. So nothing is final for me. Even your final grade can be argued politely. So the other thing is it's totally possible that and I've learned, I mean, I've really learned this about myself. The only chance I ever have of getting anything back to you guys ever, let alone on time, is if I release myself from the standard of perfection. I have definitely learned, and I think many of you scientists out there are learning this the hard way. One of the hardest things to learn as a scientist is the great is the enemy of the good, or the perfect is the enemy of the good. Like if you try to be perfect all the time, you can't make a move. And sometimes in the past, I've really stalled, and like I'm so afraid of making mistakes grading your things or something that I like just can't even grade them. I'm past that now. I'd rather make mistakes, know I'm going to make mistakes, get it back to you, and then be willing to admit my mistakes and change your grades, right? So in the end, if you still think I made a mistake, please just bring it to my attention in private chat or on a text to my phone, and that's all fine. I will not be insulted if it's politely handled. And if you're willing to take no as an answer too, I mean, because you also could be making a mistake and we'll discuss it. The other thing, wait, there was one other thing about that. Well, I think that's actually my main answer. Yeah. I mean, I think that's my main answer. But it's a fair question. Also, no, I guess the other thing, oh yeah, okay. The other thing is to, well, once you get all the numbers back, we'll also talk about what numbers mean and stuff like that too. Like when all is said and done, even before or after I give you these extra points back, let's say when all is said and done, even after you guys get points back, if the average grade on this test is, I don't think it would be, but let's say if the average grade on this test turned out to be a 65, then if you get a 75, you should still understand one way, whether, even though we don't officially curve the test, if the average grade is a 65, well, if the average grade is a 60, let's just say, and that's not the case, but if the average grade were 60 and you got an 80, you have to understand that that 80 is not a B minus then. Like however and this is where all my homework points and everything come in. If the average grade is a 60 and you got an 80, you have to get the fact that you're 20 points above the mean. You're clearly rocking this class. If the average, and I'm just making up these numbers, this has nothing to do with anybody in particular, but you always have to put the numbers in perspective. Like everything is relative. An 80 might strike you as a B minus, or 75 might strike you as a C. But if you get a 75 on an exam where the mean is a 60, no, then a 60 is more like a C, and your 75 is damn close to an A minus or whatever, because you're just that many standard deviations away from mean. And how does that come out in the wash? How can you believe me? Because that's where all your homework all the amount by which we scale the extra homework points is totally determined by what the average grades are at the end. Like that's how we secretly curve everything, is with the homework point lever. Like someone's gonna get an A in this class. Someone is gonna get an A in this class, even if the highest number anybody ever gets on exam is a 61. So if you got that 61, you're getting an A. You should understand, or probably if you don't screw up other things. So I also want people to understand that too, that just everything is in context. But okay, I'm talking too much. What are we going to do now? I mean, I'll still take more questions, but what's the point of today's class period is I want to give you all an especially, oh yes. I noticed, I may have already said this. I noticed that people did take a break, which is good. So did I. Anyway, everybody took a break. And then like in the just late last night and early this morning, I saw a bunch of old homeworks come in from this section and the other. Great. I'm totally psyched. I might have already said this. If you turned in old homeworks last night or this morning, to me, that says two things. It says, one, you did take a break, good. But two, it says, oh, you still remember that you can still catch up with things and that it's not too late. And that's good too, right? So I will grade those and get them back to you. But why I'm saying that, oh, sorry. Okay. But what I'm saying is some people are still behind in some homeworks or still have an opportunity to get some more points in this class that they haven't gotten yet. And I want us to all get caught up before we move to the next. So what's going to happen today for the next half hour? I might even put you in breakout rooms. What I want, there's nothing you can do on these tests right now. I mean, oh, weird. Yeah, you cannot don't do any more work on these tests right now. I am saying I'm going to give you more points back, but I want it to be fair. I want it, I don't want one person to change their test now, and I would see it if they did. I mean, electronically, I would see it. So what I want right now for a chance for us all to catch up and also to prove to you, like, this is not a punishment. This is like, let's all just get better and better, is for the next half hour, any old homework that you're behind on at all, this is an opportunity to try to sit and do it and turn it in. But more than that too, and it even could be some of those game assignments if you're not lying about them. But if there's any old homework or anything that you owe, I want you to work on it for a half hour. But better than that, there are many of you in the room that don't owe any old homeworks, right? I want you to help the other people. And here's how it's going to work to your benefit. Any of you who has an old homework to do, you try to work on it today and you're going to turn it in. And you'll at least get the normal points. You're certainly not going to be penalized for being late. You're certainly, and I'm about to be interrupted. I'm sorry. But you'll see I'm coming in a minute. But you'll see I put in a new homework assignment portal for people helping other people. And I don't mean this to be an unfair thing, but I just want everybody to have an opportunity. So if you have an old homework, you have an opportunity now to get the points and to get help from someone else. But I want you to hand in that homework with the standard in mind. I want this to be an opportunity to practice the standard. Like, I don't know what homework you're about to hand in, right? I maybe I don't even remember the question at this point. I want you to, even if you don't hand in all the homework, and I'm not saying it has to be turned in the next half hour, but I want your main focus to be on handing me a solution to homework that I can read on its own. Like, assume I know my physics, but assume I don't perfectly remember the questions at this point or blah, blah, blah. I want you to, like, as though it were an exam, even if it's just one problem of a homework or something, I want you to turn it in and make it as self-contained and clear as possible. Like, this is the question, this is a diagram, this is right? And in fact, I'm going to say, I'm pausing. I might even make this like 75 points for everybody. That might even make it the most fair. I have to think about how to make the points, but whatever old homework you haven't done yet, or maybe if it's even a redo on an old homework that you think you did badly on, or in your heart you never understood, some of you are going to be turning in something new now. Others of you are going to help each other. And if you're a person that helps somebody else, I want you to turn in a document to me for 75 points. You see it's in the Google Classroom now. You're going to turn in a document to me that, not like a English narrative, like, I helped my friend Jody because she's so nice and she really struggles, but I made her smarter. Like, no. Like, whatever problem you help someone else with, I want you to turn a document to me presenting the problem, like, I don't know what problem you did, right? So you have to make it clear. Don't just technical, but say like, the issue is like, there's a pendulum with a lamp, right? And you're going to turn in, like if you help someone else, even if you've already done the problem, you're going to turn in a presentation of that problem. But there too, just make it super clear what the problem is. Make it clear what the difficulty is with the other person. Not like, well, the difficulty was my friend is stupid. Like, not that kind of difficulty, but like, say like, okay, given pendulum length of this, mass of this, find period, right? And then say the other person's struggling because they get how to get the frequency, but they don't get how to convert frequency to period. Like, you learn that trying to help them, right? So what you would write down is like, okay, first find frequency, right? Then you write something like difficulty, how to get from frequency to period. Use definition of frequency, F equals triple equal sign 1/T. Like, again, like, so you're going to do, if you're helping someone else, you're going to present a document of what the issues were that you worked through and how you got to the end, but it's not a personal document. I don't need to know who the other person is or something like that. You're just, it's like a report, again, as though it was a journal article, like just a demonstration, a presentation of what the actual problem is, and then what the sub problems were that you hit, the difficulties, work them out, get to the end. And I'm actually going to say this now. So for everybody, and you don't have to finish this today, but I'm saying each one of you is going to make a decision either to redo something or either to redo something old, or to do something that you've never, that you never handed in yet, or to help somebody else. But no matter what it is, and I'll even say this right now, I'm going to change. It doesn't even have to be a whole assignment. It could be one problem that at least has like two parts, let's say, like one real problem. But whether you turn in an old problem that you're redoing, or you turn in a problem that you've never done, or you turn in a presentation of a problem that you helped someone else with, whatever it is, you're going to turn it into this new portal that I just put in for 75 points. Okay. And know that since I have no idea what you're turning in, your job is to make it as clear to me as possible what it is that you're turning in, whether you're on the helped side or on the helper side, or neither, you're just doing it by yourself. Either one is fine. But since I don't know any of that, you're going to make it clear to me. Last thing, do you mention names or not? I'm going to say this. I think that if you do actually help someone, you should say their first name, or I mean, you should say their name. I mean, especially if they've given you permission. And if you get help from someone, say the name of the person that helped you, not to get anybody, and just say their name. And then from then, I don't want to hear about them as a person. I just want to hear about the physics. But the reason you would put their name in is because then at least I can match two documents and see like how similar, like, is it the same story of dial? Do you both have the same alibi, basically, right? And it's not to challenge you. It's not to say that you're lying, because why would you lie? It's to say, I want you guys to get into practice of presenting a self-sufficient expression of physics to me, something that I can read on its own, that all I need to know is physics. I don't need to know what inspired that document in order for it to make sense. So all of you, so you're going to put in a 75 point portal. Okay. It's not due in a half hour. I guess I said it's due. I think I've said it. I'm going to make it due next Monday. I might've said Wednesday, but I'll give you a week to do this if you want. But I want it serious. I'm making it 75 points to make it clear that it's a lot of points. I'm going to translate some of these points back onto your exam, or we'll do a separate thing to also help your exam score. Okay. So don't be stressed about points right now. But even though we've got about 20 minutes, I would like this process to start here. The more people that could help other people, I think the better. And it doesn't matter if you're on the helping side or the helped side, you'll get the same amount of points either way. And secretly, I think often when people help each other, the person that really ends up getting helped the most is the helper, if that makes sense. Like if you're forced to explain your stuff to someone else, you end up learning it so much better than any other way. Like that's why I'm a teacher, or that's why I understand what I do, blah, blah, blah. So don't be embarrassed or worried whether you're on the helping side or the helped. It does not matter. But anybody who does anything for this, submit it. You'll get 75 points for that. And we will translate some of those points somehow, or I'll do another thing for your exam. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm going to pause for a second and look in the chat. But that's what we're going to start doing for 20 minutes. And I'm going to keep grading your things too, obviously. Hold on. Right, okay. Hold on, okay, so there's a couple things in both, let me respond to a couple things in private chat and then, but there's a good thing in the public chat, I'll respond to that in a second, hold on. So yes, so to what Kimberly's asking here, yeah, it's like resolving the problem and then writing the difficulty. That's right. And the only reason the other like you're almost, Kimberly wrote, so it's like we're resolving the problem and then writing the difficulties the other person had. Yes, it is that. As long as the difficulties you write about are physics difficulties, not personal difficulties. In other words, everything you try to help someone and everything they struggle with, like if they start struggling, I don't know how to get from period to frequency, then what you're writing is something like, so how do we get from period to frequency? Like you don't criticize them. You don't say that they, no matter how many times I said it, they just couldn't get this equation. But it just like whatever they're stuck on, you want to take their personality out of it and just put that sticking point into your physics. Oh, okay, cool. Okay. Um, okay. I'm gonna, okay, so please, oh wait, I'm doing it. I'll come. I am coming. I'm coming. Okay, sorry. I do want to shut up and let you start doing this, but what was I just? Oh, oh no. Oh, that's a great question. Okay, Marissa's question. She wrote, does it have to be someone who hasn't done the homework yet? And the answer is no, it does not have to be such a thing. Or like if we got one of the questions wrong on a homework, wait, if we got one of the questions wrong on homework, can we redo that? Yes, that question with the help or by helping student. Yes, absolutely. So let me be more, yes. So it can be any one problem. It doesn't have to be a whole homework thing. And right, it can be a redo, an improvement. Right. It's almost, that's right. It doesn't have to be because, I mean, again, any of you who's behind on the homework, you might want to first try to get caught up. I mean, that's like advice, but right. It doesn't have to be about that. And the key thing that I'm trying to say, and I know this is all very subtle, but again, I feel like we're now kind of in the realm of like physics 204 ramping up to PChem and or instrumental, like we're trying to get, we're trying to move, part of the whole point of the two physics courses, we're trying to move from being physics students to being physicists, if you know what I mean, or science students to being scientists, which kind of, and the thing is, what you really want to start seeing is that all of our homeworks and tests are ideally, they are exercises. Of course, they're artificial. Like they're exercises. Like I make up a thing for you, and then you try to do it so that you get better. But they're meant to be closer and closer and closer to they are real actual physics problems. Like especially now in physics 204, a lot of these problems you're doing are classic real physics problems that real physicists struggled over and then worked out solutions to. And now here we have the benefit of knowing those solutions from the geniuses that came before us, but they're real problems. They weren't made up just for fun. They're like they're actual items of human curiosity. So we're trying to make our work look more and more like that. We want our solutions to physics exercises, excuse me, I, as a professor, want my physics exercises to be more and more like actual physics research problems. And I want your answers to my exercises to look more and more like publishable or generalizable or self-sufficient or independent resolutions of actual physics problems, physics that can stand alone and be read as physics. It might not be a groundbreakingly original like it might have been written before, but it stands alone as interesting physics. Like here's how we figure out how to make a tunnel through the center of the earth, blah blah. Like that's an interesting thing in and of itself. It's not right. So yes, you could take any old, if you're seeing more and more that that's the format I'm looking for, that's the style that we're trying to practice, how to turn physics into a language that expresses things on its own. Just like, right, you could like write an English essay, you could write a physics essay, I'm saying, or a physics solution. And that's a subtle distinction. But in order to practice that, in fact, I should have thought of this long ago, it's super helpful for maybe for two of you to get together and just try to improve each other's work. Like you'd be surprised just looking at someone else's homework question, even if you also did looking at someone else's homework answer, even if you did that very same homework question, you'd be surprised looking at someone else's how much you could help them reshape it so that what they're saying actually makes sense. Like, we're all inside our own heads kind of thing. Like, and put one final way, it's actually amazing to me when I look through your exams. I'm amazed. Like I wrote the darn thing and I have a pretty good memory and I've written a million exams like it before, right? But even so, when I'm sitting looking at your exam, I feel like if I have to turn back to remind myself some detail of the question, in a way, I get annoyed for a minute and it slows down the process for sure. But then I also realize, wait, that really shouldn't be on me, right? I mean, in a friendly way, I'm saying like, if I even freaking know the question and I even from their answer can't remember what's going on in the question, something that sort of reflects that maybe you're not down and dirty with the question as much as you should be. And again, the answer is not to cut and paste my original question, because then that reduces this whole thing back to a artificial exercise. You want to show me that you see the coherent physics in and of itself in what you're doing. So helping each other is a surefire way to do that. Now, I'm talking so much, there's only 12 minutes left. I'm aware of that. The reason I'm pausing now is I was going to put you in breakout rooms and all that. I know people hate breakout rooms, but I'm almost tempted to pair you up to four. Like the more I'm listening to myself, the more I think the ideal is that none of you, I think each of you should work with someone else to get these 75 points or whatever, but I don't not quite know how to force that. So I think what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to stop talking. We have like 11 minutes or so. I'm going to stop talking. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you, assuming you're still with me and you still know what's going on. First of all, because I'm asking you to take this so seriously, I want to make sure, did I give you enough time? Hold on. So let me just, when did I make this? Just give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Oh, didn't I put? Wait a minute. Now I'm confused. Oh, yes. Okay. To April 12th. Yes. Okay. So this 75 point thing that I'm talking about, I somehow was smart enough to give you a full week for it. So I mean that. And again, I'm saying it's 75 points, but it may be more, somehow it'll also translate to points on your exam. So what I'm going to say now, take 5 minutes to make a decision on your own. Start looking through your old notes or whatever to look for something that is going to be the thing that you're either going to do or redo. Okay. Or if you're convinced, looking through all your things that there's nothing and you're convinced that you want to be a helper person, make that decision as well. I don't want you to say anything, but I just want you to take like 5 minutes to make a decision as to what you're going to select. And again, we're looking for like a problem, not a whole, doesn't have to be a whole long homework, a problem, but a reasonable problem that has a few parts, right? At least 2 parts. So right now, take time to make a decision about what it is you're going to do. I'm getting nervous about this as I'm saying it, but that's what I want you to do. So like look through your um and and that means from old homeworks and stuff, not from this exam because that will get too confusing. Yeah, so take a couple minutes to decide. And again, if you're sure that there's nothing that if you think you did everything perfectly, like Marissa, like you might have turned in everything, but you might know in your heart that something you turned in wasn't perfect. You want to redo it, and that's fine. If you find nothing, then you're going to help someone, and we're going to talk about that. But just make a decision on your own for a couple minutes. Hold on, let me look in the chat. Good questions in the chat. I'm going to start answering them. Hold on a second. I see the private questions and the public questions. I'm going to start answering them. Give me a second. Okay. I'm paying attention to these chat things. Keep thinking for a second. I want you guys, again, your goal right now is to start making a plan of what you're going to do, but I just looking at these chats, I have even updated revision of that. Hold on a second. Okay, we have like 2 minutes left, but I just saw a couple of questions in the chat, which hopefully I answered directly, but what you'll also see with 2 minutes left in the Google Classroom, what I just put in is a new portal where for just this Wednesday, I want you to jot down 1 to 3 sentences of what your plan is for this. Like, this is how seriously we're going to take this now. And again, it's all for like lots more points, and it shouldn't be hard, but it's just to show the seriousness of it. So for Wednesday, jot down 1, 2, or 3 sentences of what problem you're thinking about doing, whether you're thinking about being a helper. And again, this, for some of you might have a complete plan in mind. For some of you, this might be unclear still. So tell me what you're thinking for Wednesday. And yes, if you have a partner in mind to work with and that partner is already mutually agreed, like you already have an arrangement where you're going to help and they're going to take help and you both agree on that, terrific. Put that in your little plan, like each of you, and I'll totally honor it. It just makes it easier for me. I got no problems. But on the other hand, and this also responds to one of the questions in the chat, if you've been doing something all semester it might be working really well. Like you might, like someone put in the chat, you might be in the habit of helping certain people all semester. And maybe that's working really well for you. Maybe it's working well for them, but you can't know that. Like maybe you think it is, but it might not be working for them. But whatever it is, if you've been doing something all semester, as great as that is, what we're trying to do here is shake it up. Yes, I know we have to. All right, 1 second. 1 second. But here, what I really want everybody to do is stretch their brain and start trying to think in a new way. Like we're trying to make new habits. Our old habits might have been serving us very well, but they're never serving us perfectly. The whole education is premised on we don't know what we don't know, right? We really don't. We don't know the things that we aren't doing that could be working even better. So I definitely want everybody to do something a little bit different here, if at all possible. So you don't have to have a person in mind. If you don't have a person in mind, whatever, if you even just tell me in your plan, I've done everything in the world. I've got nothing left. I don't need help on anything. I just want to help people. Well, I personally, as a professor, may or may not agree with you, but I'll take that into consideration and I'll make a plan accordingly for you. Like I'll see. So you tell me honestly, all of you, for Wednesday, what like your plan is. Even if your plan is, I want to say help the same person I always did. I might say no because that other person doesn't want the help now or something. But you tell me what you're thinking. I will give you 35 points no matter what you're thinking, just for telling me what you're thinking. And then I'll make a decision accordingly where I need to. But those of you who already have, but I'll approve, like anybody who has a mutual plan already worked out where one person's going to get help in that, then fine, I'll approve that. But okay, I know we all have to go and my son's calling, but and I will get these tests back and I'm sorry, this is all, but I hope it's, so for Wednesday, you're just for 35 points. The number's sort of arbitrary. You're just giving me a quick plan. So where are we writing these? Well, where you're writing them is, so I put, sorry, this is directed. I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think I just put in the Google Classroom. Like there's now a homework portal called like bonus help. There's a 75-point portal. That's where you're going to ultimately put this work for next Monday. But for the plan for Wednesday, I think it's there. Okay. Yeah, there's a portal for Wednesday. And I'm just looking for like 2 or 3 sentences, but it's a 35-point portal due Wednesday that's asking for this plan. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's what and that's all you have to do for Wednesday. I'm so goodbye. If you're good, I'm good, everybody. Good. Cool. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Good to see you. Excellent. Bye.
Thanks, Professor. See you Wednesday.
Yes, see you Wednesday. Thank you very much, guys.